We continue now at the top of Daf Yomi Gemara from Mesechet Yevamos. This is Yevamos Daf 90a. Gemara said in the previous Amud, V'ocheles begino truma. It said, let's say you have a situation of a marriage that is a derabanan marriage to a girl who is a minor. So if the husband's a Kohen, so she can eat truma. So again, it seems like you have a situation of the Rabbanan coming along and uprooting something from the Torah. And the Gemara answers, B'truma derabanan. No, when it said that over there, it was not talking about truma dorais. It was just talking about the fact that she can eat truma that's just derabanan. And the Gemara continues, Tashma, coming here, another proof to this issue of whether the Rabbanan can uproot something from the Torah. The Brisa says, Achal Truma Tameya Meshalim Chulin Tohorim. Let's say somebody eats Truma Tameya B'shogeg, so he has to pay back Chulin that are pure. Shilem Chulin Tameim. Now let's say he pays back Chulin that are Tameh. So Sumchas Omer Mishum Rabbi Meir. Sumchas says in the name of Rabbi Meir, B'shogeg, if he does that B'shogeg by mistake, so Tashlum of Tashlumin, it's a good payment. B'mezid ain't Tashlum of Tashlumin, but if he does it B'mezid, it's not going to be considered a good payment. The Chachamim say echad zeh v'echad zeh. In both cases, tashluma of tashlumin, the payment is considered good, it's effective. V'chozer mashalim chulin tahorim, but he has to go again and he has to pay back chulin that are tahorim. Rashi over here says again, achal truma b'shogeg mashalim chulin tahorim. He has to pay back chulin that are tar. Techsiv v'nasan lakoinas hakodesh davar haroi lios kodesh. Beperakol, you have to pay back the actual food. It has to be tahorim so that it can become truma, it can become kodesh. B'shogeg tashluma of tashlumin. Now it said again, if he pays back chulin tameim, if he did it b'shogeg, so then it's going to be okay. And b'shogeg shilam tameim kasavar tahorim heim, meaning he thought he was giving back pure and he gave back tameim. So then again, that's going to be okay. This is what Sumcha says in the name of Rabbi Meir. B'mezid ain't tashlum of tashlum, and if he does it b'mezid, it's not going to be good. The konsinon like, because then we have a knas, it's a fine against him, and we say it's not good. And again, the Chachamim say in both situations, it's going to be considered a good tashlumin, but he has to go back and pay chulin tahorim as well. And so the Gemara now continues, V'havinan ba. So we ask on this brisa, b'mezid ein tashlum of tashlumin. It says that if he does it b'mezid, so the payment is not going to be considered a good payment. But the Gemara says, Tavol of bracha. Rashi over here says, Tavol of bracha, he should be blessed, meaning, Amai konasle, what are you giving knas for? My mezid yeshkan, what's the mezid over here? Afal b'shiyodea shein tamei, and even though he knows that it's tamei, niskavin hu l'tashlumin hagunim. In other words, he's trying, his intention over here is to pay back properly. He ate truma tameya, and he's trying to pay back chulin tameim. He's thinking that it's a good tashlumin, because on the contrary, truma tameya, you can't do anything with that. You have to burn it, but chulin tameim, you can do something with chulin tameim. So that's why the Gemara says, Tavo ala bracha, he should be blessed for doing this payment. And so the Gemara says, Da'achal mine, and continues, Da'achal mine midi deloka chazila. He ate something which wasn't fit, be made tumasa when it's tamei. Truma is nothing when it's tamei. V'kamashale midi de kachazila, be made tumasa, and on the contrary, he's paying back chulin tameim. At least that's something that is fit when it's tamei. It can be used. Rashi over here says, Da'achal mine v'ava gav de tashalumin nasim truma. Now, even though the halacha is whatever he pays back, whatever food he gives back, because of the fact that he ate the truma, that becomes truma. V'lo chazulei be made tumah, and it's not actually going to be fit because it's going to become truma and it won't be fit when it's tamei. Hamil l'tashlumin ma'alya echavin. But the point is, didn't he have kavana? Wasn't his intention to actually pay back in terms of what he had eaten? And so the Gemara continues, V'yamar Rav, and Rav said to that, V'yamri lakadi, some say it was an unattributed statement as follows, Chisurei mechzer v'hachi katani. You have to say that there are words missing in the brayso, you have to read it as follows. Achal truma tameya. Let's say he eats truma tameya. So then actually mishalim koldu. Then he could pay any amount back, because by truma tameya it's useless anyway. Achal truma tahora. But if he ate truma tahora, mishalim chulin tahorim, he has to pay back chulin tahorim. Shilem chulim tameim. Now in that case, let's say he paid back chulin tameim. Sumchas omer mishum Rabbi Meir. So Sumchas says in the name of Rabbi Meir, b'shogeg tashlum of tashlumin, b'mezid ain't tashlum of tashlumin. If he did it b'shogeg, that's going to be considered a good payment. If he did it b'mezid, it's not a good payment. The Chachamim say bein b'shogeg. It doesn't matter if he did it b'shogeg or b'mezid. Tashlum of tashlumin, it's going to be considered a good payment. V'chozer mishalim chulin tahorim, but he has to go back and go ahead again and pay back chulin tahorim. And so the Gemara now asks from the sheet of Sumchas in the name of Rabbi Meir. Over here on a doraisa level, it's certainly going to be a good tashlumin. As Rashi over here says, on a doraisa level, chulim tameim could become kodesh. Could Rabbi Loi Leo? That's like what Rabbi Loi said before. So on a doraisa level, this is a good payment. So for example, let's say a Kohen would take this stuff that he got and he use it to be mekadesh a woman. Tafsu la kiddusha, the kiddushin would be good, because again, this is considered a valid payment on a doraisa level, and it becomes like truma. V'yamar Rabbanan, yet the Rabbanan say, Ein tashlum of tashlumin. According to Rabbi Meir, the payment, if he does it with Mezid, we have a kanas, we have a fine against him, and we say it's not considered a good payment. If we're saying it's not a good payment, then what we're really saying is that even though there was a kiddushin on a doraisa level, but really it's not going to be considered a good tashlumin, and if the Kohen tries to use that truma to be mekadesh a woman, it's going to be ineffective according to the Rabbanan. And so we're taking a situation where really she's an ish on a doraisa level, and the Rabbanan are uprooting it by saying it's not considered a good payment. And so the Gemara says, no, ma'yin tashlum of tashlumin. What does it mean to come Rabbi Meir? What does it mean when Rabbi Meir said that it's not a good payment? De boy l'mahader shlume chulim tahorim. It just means he has to pay again chulim tahorim. But really, the chulim tameim would be considered effective payment in the sense that it is considered truma. But the Gemara says, Yachi, if so, Sumchas Hainu Rabbanan. If that's the case, Sumchas is exactly the same as the Chachamim. That's what the Chachamim say. The Chachamim say that in a situation where you did it b'mezid, the Tashlumin is considered a Tashlumin. It's considered Truma, but you have to pay again. So what's the difference between the two Shitas and the Braisa? And the Gemara answers, Amar Rav Acha Breder Avika. So Rav Acha Breder Avika says, Kansu Shogeg atu mezid, Ika Beinayu. The real machlokus is whether to make a fine in a case of a Shogeg because of the situation of mezid. As Rashi over here says, Kansu Shogeg atu mezid, Ika Beinayu, Rabbi Meir, according to Rabbi Meir, b'shogeg tashlum of tashlumin. So again, if he does it b'shogeg, it's a good payment. V'lo boy l'shlumei su tahorim. He doesn't need to pay any further tahorim. V'yasu rabbanan l'meimer, and that's what the rabbanan are saying. Bein b'shogeg, bein b'mezid, boy mahader tashlumin, because the rabbanan are actually being strict by b'shogeg and saying you have to pay again by b'shogeg. Everybody agrees b'mezid that the tashlum of is considered a tashlumin. It becomes true and you have to pay again. The question is b'shogeg, is it fully considered a tashlumin, or do you have to pay that again as well? And therefore, again, this brisa will not be a proof to the issue of whether the Chachamim can uproot something from the Torah. And we will just note over here one other Rashi. Again, the Brisa said, according to the amended Brisa, that if he ate Truma Tameya, he pays Kol Dehu. What does Kol Dehu mean? Again, Rashi says that means Vafilu Chulin Tameim. He can even pay back Chulin Tameim. That would not be a problem in that case, because again, the Truma Tameya, it was only set to be burned anyway, so any amount of repayment is going to be effective. And the Gemara continues, Tashma, come in here, another proof. Dam Shenitma Vizarku. Let's say you have a situation of blood that became Tameh, and you did Zerika with that blood. So b'shogeg hortza, so it says if you did that by mistake, so the carbon is still going to be accepted. B'mezid lo hartza, but if you did it b'mezid, it's not going to be accepted. And so the Gemara says, v'hacha, but over here, to mi doraisa artsuye meratza, really on a doraisa level, it really should be accepted. The Tanya, as we learned in a brisa, al mahat tzitz meratza, what does the tzitz come along and allow to be accepted? Al hadam, v'al habasar, v'al hachelav, shenitma, all of these things, whether it's the dam, the basar, the chelav that become tameh, bein b'shogeg, bein b'mezid, bein b'ones, bein b'ratza, doesn't matter if it's by mistake or on purpose, by accident, or was with intention. Bein b'yachid, bein b'tzibur, doesn't matter if it's talking about a carbon yachid or a carbon tzibur. In all of these cases, the tzitz is going to be maratza, and on a doraisa level, the dam shenitma should be hortza. Yet v'amri rabbanon lo hortza. Yet the rabbanon are coming along and saying it's not accepted, it's not considered effective, and therefore again you see that the rabbanon are uprooting something from the Torah. V'kahadar ma'ayil chulin lazara, and what they're essentially saying is that if you would bring it up, so then that would be considered bringing chulin lazar, meaning they're going to say to do it again, and therefore bring another carbon. But really, on a doraisa level, you don't need another carbon. You don't need to do it again. So then, really, the Rabbanan are allowing you to bring chulin lo azara. They're uprooting something from the Torah. And so the Gemara answers, Amar Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina. Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina says, no, Milo Hortza de Kamra. What does it mean that it's not effective when you do this Rika with Dam Shenitma? It means to say, Lahatir Basar Bachila. It just means to say it's not effective in terms of allowing you to eat the actual basar from the carbon, to eat the meat. Avol Bailim Nischaprubo. But the truth of the matter is, it would be considered a kapar from the Bailim, and you would not bring another carbon. But the Gemara still says, sof, but still, Kamisakra Achilas Basar, aren't you uprooting what the Torah says to eat the meat? Uchsiv, because the pasuk says, V'yachlu osam, asher kupar b'hem. It says the people who are getting the kapara, they have to eat it. Melamid shakohanim ochlemu v'ailam eschaprim. It says, you see from this that the kohanim eat, and the bailam get a kapara, and so therefore the Torah says that you should eat, that's from the Torah, and yet the Rabbanan are saying you don't eat it, because we say again, that since the dam was nitma, the Rabbanan say you shouldn't eat the meat. So it seems like they are uprooting something from the Torah, and to that the Gemara says, Amar Lei said to him, Shevi al Tasa Shani. They're uprooting something in a Shevi al Tasa fashion. They're saying not to do something that the Rabbanan, that the Chazal, they're allowed to do. Rashi over here says, Aval bailim nischapru v'lo boile suye carbon achrina. They don't need to bring another carbon. That's what the Gemara answered. And when it comes to the achilas basar, that's a shevi al tasa. Lav akirahi, that's not considered uprooting. Kagon achilas basar asehi, the eating of the meat is an asay. V'yamar rabbanan shevi al tochel, and the rabbanan is saying, don't do the asay. Lav akira biyadayim, that's not called an uprooting biyadayim. Elam memelahi makar, it's just something that uproots. Memela, it happens by itself. Aval truma dukamar loasa v'lo klum. But when it comes to the case of truma, where we said what he did was nothing, umifgas la lechulin, and you're turning him into chulin, akira mamishi, that's really uprooting something from the Torah. That is different than this case over here. We'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Tzadi Amud Beis.